Hi there. Today I'm going to be going through how you can use the Telnyx number lookup API to enrich leads in your Marketo database using their phone number, which will help you to improve your audience segmentation. It might be able to help you shorten your form and therefore increase form conversions. And it might also help you with prioritizing leads for sales who we know have a genuine mobile number that has been verified. So these are all some of the examples or use cases for using the Telnyx number lookup API in your Marketo automation, and I'll go through those in more depth later on in this video. If you haven't come across Marketo webhooks before, I highly recommend you check out this Marketo webhook guide with examples because it will teach you all the fundamentals you need to be able to make API requests, as we'll do later on in this video. Then I just give some background information here on Telnyx. All you need to know is that they are a telecommunications provider that make it very easy to integrate telecommunications into your products with their developer-friendly APIs. And these APIs can be integrated into many marketing automation platforms, such as Marketo, HubSpot, and ActiveCampaign, because they all have webhook functionality. And once you have webhook functionality, this means that the Telnyx API can help you to send SMS notifications from your marketing automation platform or to do number lookup, as we'll be covering in this video. And in particular, we are going to be using the number lookup API to get information about a person's country code, their state, what city they're in, and what number type, whether it's a mobile number, a landline, or a VoIP, voice over internet protocol number type. And in order to access this API, you will need to create a free Telnyx portal account. This is completely free, so you can sign up here and then you'll be all set to continue with the rest of this lesson to make the API request, giving a person's phone number, and then all this information will be returned to you so that you can use it in your Marketo instance. Okay, so let's look at how we can use this information to do useful things within Marketo. So we can use it for number verification, lead scoring, and sales prioritization. So if we send a number to the number lookup API and successful information is returned, we know it's a genuine number. And conversely, if we send a number like 123456789 to the number lookup API, we know it's a fake number. So we can use this to deprioritize leads who fill out our forms with fake numbers. And also the type of number that we get, for example, the number type here, it could be mobile, fixed line, or VoIP, voice over internet protocol. And you could maybe use this for your sales team to prioritize leads who actually have mobile numbers, because it might be likely that sales will be more likely to get in touch with a person if it's a mobile number versus a fixed landline for the business as a whole. And you could build demographic scoring models that might give more points to leads with verified numbers, and also more points again if they're mobile numbers versus fixed line numbers or VoIP numbers. You can also use it to improve the segmentation in your database. So as I showed above, we can get the country code, state, and city information about a phone number. And then if you're using Salesforce, you can have a formula field to say, if the state field is empty, then let's use the lookup state that we got from the number lookup API request, or else we'll just use the default state value. Or in Marketo, we can set up a smart campaign, which looks something like this, where we see if the lookup state or the lookup city values get populated from the number lookup API request. We can have change data value flow steps that are set up like this to say, if state is empty, then let's populate the state field with the lookup state. And we use the lead token lookup state to pull this in. Or if city is empty, then we'll populate city using the lead token for lookup city. So this way, we can improve the segmentation of our database by using the state and city information to fill out the state and city fields that we have about the person. And I'll show you later on how you can map the country code that you get from the number lookup API request to country values, so that you can also do similar population of country fields using the information from the number lookup API request. And then the final thing here I want to point out is that you could use it to reduce form fields and increase conversion. Because if you have a phone number and you collect a phone number in your form, well, then obviously you don't need to collect maybe the city or the state, or maybe you don't need to ask for the country anymore. You can just use the person's phone number to look up all this information. So therefore, you could save 3 fields in your form, and the shorter your form is, the more likely you are to convert. So these are 3 ways that using number lookup information within Marketo or marketing automation platforms in general could help you improve your marketing efforts. Okay, so now let's get to the fun part where we actually set up the webhook in Marketo to make the API request to the Telnyx number lookup API. So just a quick note before we start, you can use the Postman API testing tool to test out the number lookup API before trying to bring it into a Marketo webhook. And if you want an introduction to Postman and how to make your first API request using Postman, then I recommend checking out the Testing the Marketo API using Postman section of the Marketo API Quick Start Guide, because this will give you a good introduction to making your first Postman requests. And even though I have the Marketo API mentioned here, it's a generic introduction that will allow you to test out any API in Postman. So just ignore the fact that it's Marketo API specific, because you can take the exact same principles I walk through here and apply them to testing out any API in Postman. Okay, so let's start by taking a quick look at the Telnyx number lookup API docs. So we open up this page, and this contains all the information we need to make the API request to look up information about a number. I'm just going to zoom in here for you guys. So this is the number we're going to specify to this URL, and it's going to return information to us like the city that the number is from, the state, the line type. So in this example here, it's voice over internet protocol. And then we also get the country code of the phone number. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this API request and make it from Marketo using webhooks. And we are going to go to the admin section of Marketo in order to do this. So let's go to webhooks. We're going to make a new webhook. Let's call this Telnyx number lookup. And I always find it helpful when you're making API requests to put a link to the API documentation in the description, because if you ever have issues or you ever want to get back to the API docs quickly, you can do that from the description of the webhook. The URL that we're making this request to is this URL here. And what we're going to do is we need this phone number to be a variable value. So we are going to insert the phone number lead token here. I'm going to delete the edit me. I'm going to delete the default value, sorry. So now this will pull in the lead's phone number. So that means for different leads, we'll pull in the phone number for each lead here to get all the number lookup information. And then we're going to change the request type to be a GET request, because that's what it says in the documentation here. We can see it's a GET request to this URL. And then for the response type, we're going to select JSON here, because this response that is returned by the Telnyx number lookup API is in JSON format. I know that, so I'll just save you the effort of finding it out yourself. And then we are ready to click create here. Okay, and then let's go find it. Telnyx number lookup. And there's one small thing we have to do here. We have to put in our authorization to let Telnyx know we've got the necessary permissions to make this number lookup request. So the way we do that is we log into our Telnyx portal, and I'll zoom in again here for you guys. We go to account settings, keys and credentials. I'm going to create a temporary key here that I will delete after this video. So I recommend whenever you make API requests, don't share your authorization keys with anyone because that gives them the keys to the castle. So I'll delete this API key after this video. I'm going to copy it here. And then in webhook actions, we're going to go set custom header. And I've got the instructions for this, by the way, in the blog post here. So click set custom header. Then we're going to put authorization in the header column, and then we are going to put bearer followed by a space in the value column. So here I'm going to add a new one. We're going to call it authorization. And then we're going to put in the word bearer and then a space, and then paste in our Telnyx API key. And then we are going to hit save. And now the final part of this is we need to do the mappings to take the information returned from the number lookup request and store it in Marketo fields. So we need to take all this information like the city, the state, the country code, and the line type. We need to take all of this out of the payload and put it in Marketo fields. And the way we do this is with the response attribute section down here. So we're going to add a new one. And the way to know how to do this is, I'll show you the end result first and then how we get there. So we can see it's data.countrycode, then it's data.portability_city, data.portability_line_type, and data.portability_state. And you'll notice that here it's dot, we've got 2 dots, and here we've only got 1 dot, and this will make sense in a second, I hope. So here we've got data, which is kind of like the first layer, and then we use dot to access the next layer. So we're going to access country code from the next layer in data. So we're going to get country code here within the next layer. But then to get the city, line type, and state, we notice that they're a layer deeper within portability. So that's why here we are going to go data.portability to access the portability layer. And then we're going to go a level deeper to get city, line type, and state. So that's why here it's just, so for country code, just to summarize again, country code is just 1 layer deep. So we go data.countrycode, and then these 3 fields are 3 levels deep. So we have to go data.portability and then the field's name. So let's set this up in Marketo quickly. So we've got data.countrycode, and we want to map this to the lookup country code field. And then we've got data.portability.city. Data.portability.city. This is going to map to lookup city. Feel free to watch this on 2x speed until I get this finished. Data.portability.line type, and this is going to go to lookup line type, and then final one, we've got data.portability. And then this is going to go to, you guessed it, lookup state. And then we're just going to hit save. And now if we look at our API request, Telnyx number lookup, we've got it all configured the way we need it to make the number lookup API request to get the information about a person's country code, city, line type, and state. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we can call this webhook from a Marketo Smart campaign so that we can populate these different fields on a person in our database. And it will look something like this in the activity log, where we can see all the lookup fields being populated once we've made the webhook request to the Telnyx number lookup API. So let's take a look at how we can call this webhook from a smart campaign. And it's worth noting here that webhooks can only be called from trigger campaigns or trigger smart campaigns in Marketo. However, if you want a workaround for this, you'll remember at the very start of this blog post, I mentioned the Marketo webhook guide with examples. So if you open this up, I've got a whole section in this blog post dedicated to how you can call a webhook from a batch campaign. So if you need to do this from one of your workflows, then you can see this section here. And there's tons of other useful information in this blog post all about setting up webhooks, debugging them, etc. So I highly recommend checking this out too. But let's go back to this smart campaign to make the webhook request for number lookup. So I've created this smart campaign here called lookup phone number. And the way it works is we say that whenever someone is created and their phone number is not empty, or if anyone fills out any form on our site and their phone number is not empty, or finally, if their phone number field changes, and you can add a constraint here to say new value is not empty. If any of these triggers happen, then let's send the webhook request to our Telnyx number lookup webhook. So then we'll request all the information about this person's phone number. And when we do that, all these fields will be populated. And I'll show you now how you can test this webhook before putting it live in one of your more important smart campaigns. So the way we do this is we just have a campaign is requested trigger in the smart list here. Then we've just got the call webhook action to our Telnyx number lookup request. And in the schedule, I just have it set here to every time because you might want to do a few tests. So I recommend setting this to every time. Okay, so the way we're going to test this out is we're going to go to our database. We're going to search for a lead, one that you're comfortable testing with. So in this case, I'm testing with myself, tyron@telnyx.com. I open up the lead. We can currently see that all four of these lookup fields are empty here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to special request campaign, and then we are going to request the test number lookup smart campaign I just showed you 30 seconds ago. And we are going to hit run now. And I'll pause the video here while we wait for this to complete. Okay, so now let's check out the activity log. And here we can see the Telnyx number lookup webhook was sent. And if we click into the activity details, we can see all the information that was returned about the phone number. And you will notice that this exactly matches the expected output that we were expecting to get based on the API documentation. So we can see that the response is the exact same. We can see the state was Indiana, the city was Elkhart, the line type was mobile, and the country code was US. And we can see in Marketo then that the lookup fields I showed you that were previously empty have now all been populated. So if we go back here and I search for lookup, I'll need to refresh here. So hold on, let me refresh, and then these 4 fields should be populated. So go back into info. Let's look up the lookup fields, and there we have it. These 4 fields have been populated with all the information we got from the person's phone number. I'm going to end this video by talking about data normalization requirements in order to get this to work correctly. So you need to ensure that the phone numbers are in E164 format. So E164 number format. So that just basically means you need the plus symbol and then the country code and then the person's phone number. And I highly recommend putting validation rules on your forms to ensure that the incoming phone numbers are in this E164 format, because if they're not, then the number lookup API requests will fail. And if your numbers are not entered in this format, then you might have to use a tool like FlowBoost or Zapier to format the numbers after submission, which is a bit of a pain. So I recommend doing it upfront on the form. Or if you have a lot of numbers already in your database that you need to convert to this format, then you can do something like use a Python script with the pandas library in order to import all these phone numbers and do the formatting. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you'll probably want to map all the country codes to country values so that you can then store these country values in your country fields. And the way you can do this is you can either use, again, FlowBoost or Zapier. Every time a lead is created, let's use the country code to country mapping table we have to update the person's country field. Or if you need to backdate a lot of different country code values in your database and get the equivalent country value for them, then you can use this Google Sheet, which was thanks to Sanford Whiteman, which maps all the country codes, whether it's Alpha 2 or Alpha 3, to their corresponding country name. So you can put a table like this within maybe one of your Marketo Smart campaigns. It would be a pain though, because you'd have to have a choice statement to say, if country code is this, then country is this. If country code is this, then country is this. So you could take all of this and you could put it into a change data value flow step in one of your Marketo Smart campaigns to convert all these country code values to country name values. Or you could use a tool like Zapier or FlowBoost, as I mentioned. Every time a lead is created, then you just use this Google Sheet to look up what country name value they should have. So it might be a bit easier using FlowBoost or Zapier. Or if you need to do backdating, again, you can use a Python script, you can use a Google Sheet, and you can import all the country code values into that Python script or the Google Sheet. And then if you're using a Google Sheet, you can just use VLOOKUP formulas to look up the country code and get the corresponding name. Or if you're doing a Python script, you can just build this logic into the Python script. So I hope that was helpful. And if you're excited about what the Telnyx API can do for your marketing automation platform, I highly recommend you check out the Telnyx SMS API, because you can use this API for doing text messaging for alerts from within Marketo to your customers. You can build a two-way SMS bot using Marketo and Zapier, and you can integrate webinar reminder SMS notifications for your webinars. You can do all of this within Marketo using the Telnyx SMS API and webhooks. So I highly recommend checking out these posts here if you're interested. Have a great day.